The BMW M2 is the smallest and cheapest full-fat M car that BMW currently makes, and as such you'd expect them to keep it away from the loftier power outputs of its larger and more expensive siblings such as the M3 and the M4. And they did, for a while, but now that's all gone out the window for this thing, the new BMW M2 CS.
This £92,000 car is the most powerful M2 ever built by BMW. It's got the same S58 3-litre twin-turbo straight six as the M4 competition, and as such it makes the same 523 brake horsepower. That's 89 brake horsepower more than the last M2 CS, and that was hardly underpowered in the first place.
As a result, 0 to 62 miles an hour takes 3.8 seconds. That's 0.2 quicker than the M2 competition. 0 to 124 miles an hour takes 11.7 seconds. And because the M drivers package is fitted as standard, the top speed is 188 miles an hour in a 2 Series.
And don't forget, unlike the M4, the M2 CS is putting all of its power down via the rear wheels. It's a handful, especially in the wet or with the systems dialed back, but you know exactly where you stand with it. Everything is down to the rear wheels, and as such, it's not hard to get it to rotate on the throttle.
You know, I think BMW has done a really good job with this ZF automatic transmission. I mean, when it first came about as a replacement to the DCT and the M3 and the M4, it was controversial and I wasn't sure about it. It wasn't as snappy or as involving. But now, through no doubt a number of software upgrades, shall we call them, it's really a great box to use. It's fantastic in auto mode, everyday driving around town on the motorway. No complaints there, and definitely better than the DCT, but it's when you start to push on that it's a lot more responsive. I mean, you get the down changes when you ask for them, it's crisp, it's got nice rev matching. I'm not a fan of the thunk when you change up a gear in the more aggressive modes. I think that's a bit too much, but other than that, it's a really good gearbox now.
Like a lot of aspects of the M2 CS's character, you can tweak various settings and save the presets on the M1 and M2 steering wheel shortcut buttons.
I think this is something that BMW does better than anyone. You've got a car which is very usable and easy to drive in everyday situations, but press the M1 or the M2 button and you can turn it into a proper hooligan. And that's what this car is when you want it to be.
For the M2 CS, BMW has also worked on a bespoke tune for the springs, dampers and chassis control systems, while the DSC, steering, diff and braking system have also been fettled. Finally, the whole car has been lowered by 8mm to sit closer to the ground.
And actually, leaving that aside for a sec, because of these new bucket seats, I feel even lower in the car. I mean, this is a really good driving position. I sometimes actually feel like I need to just knock it up a little bit so I can see what's going on with any curbs or anything hidden by the side of the car. You can really get super low down, and that makes such a difference.
And along with these seats, a lot of the visual differentiators are based around carbon. So there's a CFRP center console, new ducktail spoiler, and a rear diffuser. Also, the wheels, matte gold bronze M-Lite alloys, 19 inches at the front, 20 at the rear, and they're wearing Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tyres. However, you can get more focused versions aimed at track use, should you wish.
I don't think you need to be driving on circuit to appreciate some of those changes though, because the whole car just feels a bit more raw. You've got more communication of what's going on through the seat. You can feel the road surface a bit better through your bum, which is always a good thing. And also, The steering, I don't like this big chunky steering wheel at all. I just think it's too big. But the response from the front end is incredible. And also the grip levels at the front, honestly staggering. There's so much purchase there.
That said, the feeling through the steering wheel is at odds with the rest of the car in that, well, it's a bit lacking. There's not a great degree of engagement off the straight ahead position, so I found myself guessing a little on the initial turn-in just because the feel isn't quite there. Once you're into the corner, it's far more convincing and the whole package makes for such an exciting car, but initially at least, I did struggle to get into a rhythm with the steering.
I honestly think this car would be awesome on track, just like the M3 CS and the M4 CS, but out here on road, it's the same width as an M4, and sometimes you really feel that. Also the weight, they've managed to get about 30 kilos off down to 1,700 kilograms, which isn't bad, but it's also not exceptional. And when you factor in that an M4 CS is about 1,760 kilograms, the difference in weight and then the difference in size isn't as great as I'd like. There are times when this just feels, for a sports car, a little bit big for the road.
What I said about the size comparison with the M4 is one of my only real criticisms of the M2 CS on-road in the UK. It is the smallest M car and it is more agile than an M4, yet sometimes it hides that behind its similarly chunky body, which is a bit of a problem, especially when it comes to this car's biggest rival, the Porsche Cayman GTS. The Cayman is arguably the benchmark sports car. Mid-engined and rear-wheel drive, it's also over 8 centimeters narrower and 18 centimeters shorter than the M2 CS and weighs about 265 kilograms less. It's priced from £75,000, and first impressions are that it's not just the dimensions and weight that contrast heavily.
This cabin, it's basically an entire generation older than the one in the M2 CS, and there's some good and there's some bad points to that. We'll start with the good, and it just feels more focused in here. Everything wraps around you and you feel like you're an integral part of the car. And you've also got lots of buttons, which are great for adjusting things on the fly, so I'm a big fan of that. But on the flip side, the M2 CS just has a more modern interior. So the infotainment, it's better, it's got more functionality. And when you're trying to go through all the different settings, it is ultimately a more usable system, I think. Also, if you're a bigger person, you're gonna feel cramped in here. I mean, I'm not particularly big and I can tell that it's quite snug. So the BMW is gonna be better in that respect. And the way that I'd summarize it is that if you're on your favorite road and you're hammering along and you're having a great time, this Porsche interior is excellent. But if you're going to use these cars every day, which I'm going to say is quite likely with an M2 CS and a Cayman, the BMW is the better place to be.
Feeling a little more old school does have its advantages, however. I've already mentioned the weight and the size, but what about the engine?
I absolutely love this 4-litre flat 6 engine. It is everything you could possibly want from the heart of a sports car. It sounds amazing. The responses are fantastic. And it's quick enough to be exciting without being stupid. It's brilliantly judged. And yeah, it's not the same 4-litre flat 6 as you get in a 911 GT3, but it's still an absolute peach of an engine. Oh. That said, it's a real shame that we haven't got the manual gearbox in this car, because Porsche has stopped offering it with the Cayman GTS, and that is such a shame because it's one of my favorite manual gearboxes in a new car today. It suits the car so well. But saying that, the PDK, it's about as good as it gets. The changes are so crisp. They are sharper than the BMWs, as good as the gearbox in that is. This is a proper dual clutcher, and it works, oh, so well.
The Porsche makes 395 brake horsepower and 317 pounds-feet of torque, which is clearly far, far less than the BMW. However, the power to weight is 275 brake horsepower per tonne versus 307 brake horsepower per tonne. And so the 0 to 62 mile an hour time is only 0.2 slower at 4 seconds flat. Admittedly, once you're rolling, the M2 CS clearly has the legs on the Cayman GTS, but on the road at least, it's sometimes not what you'd call a usable advantage.
What is a usable advantage, however, is just how much more compact and placeable this Cayman feels. I wouldn't say I've got any more grip than I do in the BMW. I mean, certainly not at the front end. And the steering, actually, it isn't as sharp. Just jumping into it now, I'm more confident carrying speed into corners just because you get a better sense of where you stand. Although, once you are into the corner, the BMW is obviously way more adjustable on the throttle. And that means that ultimately, I think the peaks of excitement, if you really get it right in the M2 CS, are slightly higher than they are in this Cayman. It's a bit more one-dimensional through the corner, this Cayman. It's more precise, but then a little bit less expressive as well. The BMW just majors on outright excitement, and it does do that really, really well.
The longer we spent driving these two cars, the harder the decision on a winner became. As is often the case with our twin tests, there's an accompanying written feature in the magazine, and trust me when I say that myself and Ben Barry, the writer of said feature, had a spirited debate on which car we preferred. Had you have asked me early on, the verdict would have been the Porsche. It's the benchmark for a reason, yet despite my issues with the M2 CS's size compared with the Cayman GTS, I did find myself drawn to its extremes of ability. It is undoubtedly the more usable everyday car, I don't think that's really up for debate. And while the Porsche delivers instant confidence and thrills owing to its controls, low weight and smaller dimensions, the BMW's incredible pace lined with a layer of wanton lunacy is hard to ignore. Jump in the Porsche and you feel like you can access 95% of what it has to offer very quickly. Jump in the BMW and it's the opposite. You have to build up to it, draw more from yourself as a driver, and only once you're familiar can you reap the considerable rewards. And as such, we arrive at one of the tightest twin test verdicts we've ever had. Both cars are undoubtedly 5-star heroes, but in the photo finish, the M2 CS has its nose ahead by a whisker. There's very little it can't do, and while it might not be a traditional sports car in the same way that the Cayman GTS is, that doesn't stop it delivering one of the most thrilling performance car experiences of 2025.